let's do a recap of how everything unfolded in Game 13 of the FIDE World Championship match presented by Googles. And it all began with Gukesh with the white pieces, trying for the last time e4, and of course meeting Ding Liren's e6, the French defense.
And we've seen this twice before between the players. Gukesh tried the French defense in Game 1, was scarred there maybe by the experience, ended up losing despite getting a good position from the opening Gukesh. And there was one other occasion in which the players made a draw. But this time we saw Gukesh repeat that Game 1 experience with knight back to e2. And it was only later this move a3, a bit of a rarity, surprising Ding, throwing him off and forcing him to burn time on the clock.
It was an excellent idea from Gukesh. Ding reacted with bishop to e7. He had many other choices, but this one seemed very fluid, just concentrating on developing pieces. Quick as a flash, Gukesh responds with bishop to e3. And this is where Ding settles into a very long think and comes up with knight to b6, which is a very concrete try aimed at getting the knight to c4.
He aims to land his knight in, forcing white to make some concessions. Gukesh very logically brought his knight forward, covering the c4 square. There was a trade of pawns, and now the black knight did land, but it was swiftly removed from the board. That knight had moved 4 times, was traded off for the bishop that had only moved once. So a bit of a gain of time for Gukesh. And here, perhaps he should have used that lead in development by bringing out his queen, attacking some weak spots in the black camp.
And that's something very easily to see in hindsight, that this was perhaps the correct response. But Gukesh, sensing that his position was fine, just went knight to g2, and the game continued with both sides developing.
Black pushed on the queen side. Again, very ambitious, very beneficial long-term, but short-term costing a bit of time. Castling, the white knight now attacked this b-pawn, again gaining a tempo. The black rook had to defend, and this is where Gukesh signaled his intentions, going for the black king, forcing a very committal but a very good move by Ding.
It was an excellent response from Ding, because here he wanted to simply stop the white queen getting to g4. So that's why he chooses dynamic play, playing f5, just making sure that the position is very unsettled. Now, it's here that Gukesh thought for a long time and decided to capture with en passant.
He took the pawn as if it just moved once. No pawn bypassing him, that's for sure. And suddenly the game became a bit tactical. Rather than the move we were expecting, knight takes bishop, followed by pawn to d5 with lots of trades, lots of simplifications, Gukesh moved his queen out.
It's a very clever try just to keep the tension in the game, you know, attacking the knight and also signifying that they're going to develop their rooks towards the center.
The white rook's coming towards the center there. Instead, though, Ding moved his queen across, allowing a trade and a step back. This is where Gukesh started to outplay Ding, started to gain some real chances. The black bishop's really bad. The black knight is a bit misplaced. White's just bringing rooks. White's got a beautiful bishop potentially when it improves itself. And after the queen came forward, white just pushing a pawn. Tactics after the knight retreated, Jovanka. This is where Gukesh shocked Ding with a great move.
Yeah, it was played instantly. Bishop to f4. You cannot take the bishop on account of rook takes e5, and the queen would be eyeing up both of those rooks. So that's why Ding, surprised, just moves his rook up 2 squares to cover the d6 square, but again was met instantly by Gukesh. Bishop to c7. Now, this seems to have somewhat discombobulated Ding, because here he makes a mistake. He drops the rook back to b7, allows the bishop to come to d6, and suddenly this position is very, very difficult for Ding.
That's right, Ding under serious pressure, both on board and clock right now. There was a trade of pieces. The white queen lands. A beautiful outpost. This pawn is attacked as well. Ding defends this pawn, and here, key moment. Gukesh pushes his pawn forward. He could have just mobilized his rook, pins on the open file, great position, but he goes for direct attack. And here Ding, walking a tightrope, reacted to this check with a block.
He did. And then the queen sidestepped. And here was a very interesting moment. So after the rook stepped back to prevent rook to d8, the rook came to de1, inviting this trade of queen for 2 rooks. That was refused by Ding. That was actually probably the losing mistake. But here, instead of rook takes rook, followed by knight to e4, Gukesh missed his opportunity and instead went directly for knight to e4. And then here, Ding played perfectly.
The only move for Ding to save the game is the one he played. He moved his rook to f8 and ultimately from here on out played perfectly, defended really well. The white knight forks the queen and rook. The rook moves out the way with a counterattack against the white queen. And we saw Gukesh try to keep the tension, try to keep pieces on the board, but ultimately everything started to get traded off. Rooks leaving first of all. Now Ding activated his queen with some threats of his own. And Jovanka, the rest always looked like it was going to end in a draw.
Yeah, totally. Perfection from Ding. And there was absolutely nothing that Gukesh could do. So some extremely good defense, especially from c3, and wonderful, wonderful defense there by Ding.
Yep, he pushed his pawns forward. He got the queens off the board a few moves later. And ultimately, this rook endgame ended in a draw. Gukesh tried, but ultimately not successful. A very fair result in the end, but frustration for Gukesh.
Yes, and that means everything will be decided by tomorrow's last classical game, Game 14. Ding will have the white pieces. We'll see what mood he comes to the table.